If you don't fire the shot, how would you ever know if your sights are right? It's an important technique for people to understand because it takes so little money out of your pocket. That'll be $50 and you can stay here tonight.
This is going to be interesting.
In an old pawn shop, up on the shelf, there was an old microphone. He tried it out for himself. His name is Russ. He bought that mic, and now he's got a podcast show.
Hello and welcome to the Blue Cup Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell. I'm very excited to have Harris Jones and Paul Santana with us today. Two of my favorite people. We're going to have some fun. As long as Paul can not overthink things, we're going to be good, right?
He's an engineer. That's what he's built to do.
I know. I kid because I love. Yeah, definitely. I grew up with an engineer as a father, so I understand it completely. So we really want to talk about, to begin, I want people to know who you are, and but then I'm gonna set a little bait for what you're doing with the co-living real estate investment while working W-2 jobs, right? You both work W-2 jobs, and you've done a phenomenal job of acquiring property and creating passive income. It's not really passive, other than your W-2 income, but it's very personal for you too. So I think it's going to be kind of a cool story and would love to get into it. So we'll start with Harris, talk about childhood and growing up and all that.
Yeah, I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina, which is not too far from where we are now in the Charleston, South Carolina market. And I grew up in a divorced household. My mom's side of the family was a bunch of lesbians and assless chaps. Can I say ass on here?
Yes, absolutely. You can say anything you want.
At biker bars. And
Yes.
my dad's side of the family was
Yes.
very conservative. They're religious, but I had very much a dichotomy of my family, right? Because
Wow.
my parents were divorced, so I had this one wild side on my mom's side, and then my dad's side was a little bit more conservative. So that was an interesting childhood. And then as I grew up, I got into web development. So I started to code my own MySpace when MySpace was cool back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Make it really pretty. And then that led me into getting into computer science. So I went to Clemson University, studied computer science, and then
Yes.
I left, got a job, an internship at a marketing agency, and started web development. So I was in computer software for a really long time. And then I ended up moving to Charleston in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, when everybody was struggling. I loved 2020. 2020 was my year. Everybody else struggled in 2020, but I ended up moving to Charleston because my sister-in-law opened up a business, Rehab Wallet. Russ has their hat on. And
That's Rehab Wallet.
thanks for the swag. But we opened Rehab Wallet, and Kelly called me and said, hey, would you be interested in joining our team and kind of kicking it off with us? And I said, yeah, absolutely. Count me in. So I switched gears, 180, went from computer science into full-blown real estate. So it was interesting.
Yes. Well, I remember you were still kind of the go-to person for technology when something broke.
Yeah.
I remember those early days.
It was funny,
Definitely.
too. When I first came to real estate meetings, Kelly would often say, what do you have to offer? And I would say, I don't really have anything to offer. I don't know anything about real estate. And Kelly's like, that's not true. You know tons about web development, technology. Like, you have plenty to offer. It's just a different, it's just a different ballgame. It's not real estate. It's technology, which is still useful.
Yeah, and my analogy of that is I only speak English and not very well. So if I need someone to speak Spanish, I'm going to have to find somebody else. So if I need someone to speak computer code, I'm going to have to go, as I would for a Spanish speaker, I'm going to have to go find somebody like Harris who can you just, and it was like clickety, clickety, click, okay, it's done. It's like, how, what? I remember several experiences like that with you a decade ago,
Yeah.
or 5 years ago anyway. So I know that you enjoyed music festivals and hula hooping and
Yeah.
some really fun stuff like that.
I went through I would call it a dark phase, but it really wasn't much of a dark phase. It was more of a wild phase. So
Yeah.
I went through a wild phase, and I, through that process, started going to music festivals and I started to witness people hula hooping. And they would basically like roll staffs off their body. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody with a staff or fireballs, stuff like that. It was wild to watch. Aerial people in the air who would like swing on
Right.
ropes and hula hoops and stuff. I once witnessed somebody hula hooping at a festival and then they let me borrow their hula hoop and I bought my own after that. I came home, I practiced every day. So now I'm like a undercover hula hoop master because I'll go
Yes.
outside with my dogs and I'll just hula hoop while I'm out there. And it's definitely a skill that is completely useless, but I love it and it makes me release all that energy that I need to release after.
I'm going to say that's far from useless. If it gives you catharsis like that, it's better than drugs, right?
I will say it gives me cat-like reflexes. So if I drop something, I can pretty much catch it.
This is true. I've witnessed
I
it.
love it. Absolutely love it. I don't know if you remember, but my mother and my sister and I were on a cruise in the Mediterranean a couple of years ago, and I sent you videos of a hula hooping act where she had LEDs in them, and she's standing on her head, twirling it with her foot, and I was like, Harris, you can do this. You can do all of this.
Maybe twirl
You
it.
could
But
learn.
stand. No, not have my foot in the air with a hula hoop on it.
I love that, the vision of you enjoying yourself in your backyard. And I've been to your house, or at least the one you used to live in. You've got a 6 foot high fence, so nobody's going to see you. I
Yeah.
mean, you do what you want.
Yeah.
So I love it. So the technology, phasing into real estate, hanging on to that vibe of the music festivals. You got a little color in your hair there.
Yeah.
So the
Got
vibe
purple.
remains, and that's super cool. So I know you kind of stumbled into a flip deal.
I did.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. Can you tell us about
Yeah,
that?
of course. So when I first got into real estate, I was just working at Rehab Wallet and I hadn't really been actively investing. I was just learning how to be a lender. So
Right.
I saw on Facebook an old colleague of mine posted, I'm struggling to pay my mortgage. I'm in this situation. I need help. Can somebody connect me to a real estate agent that they like? And I reached out because I had been in these real estate groups with you, Russ, and other people in the Charleston area. And I said, listen, I know tons of real estate investors. It may not be the best solution for you, but let me know if you're interested, and I'll be happy to connect you with some of these people. I had no
Yeah.
intention of acquiring the property myself, but she ended up going to a real estate agent, and the agent said, I can't list your house because there was so much stuff in it.
Yeah,
She
the
just could not
condition
get
of it,
listed.
right.
Yep. The condition was bad. There was a leak. So ultimately, she decided to reach back out to me, and Sunshine and Kelly, my sister and sister-in-law, they went to the property, looked at it, talked to her, and we ended up buying the property sub two from her. So we bought it subject to. We gave her a little cash to get out of the property, and gave her some money when we first purchased it. And after about 3 months or so, we ended up listing that property on the market after flipping it, and we made $100,000 each. Well, not each, but we split that. So I
Total,
took
yeah.
50, yeah. So that was total. So that was like a unicorn of a deal, and I had no
Yeah.
idea what I was doing, and it was a win for the seller too. She ended up getting in a much better situation. She
Right.
ended up traveling the world. She became a digital nomad. So it was a really cool story between how it really benefited her, and then I was able to make some money on my very first deal that I had
Some
no
money.
idea
You
what I
made
was doing.
$50,000. That's some money.
Yeah. I also learned through that deal, never change your own electrical boxes. Don't do that.
Tell me about that. What happened?
I think Sunshine said, we can do that ourselves. And Sunshine and I
Of
went
course
through
she
the whole
did.
house and changed
So
all the
Sunshine
light
is your
switches.
sister.
My sister, yep. So we changed all the light switches, all the outlet boxes, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'll just pay
An
somebody to do
electrician
this.
can do it in like 30 seconds. It takes me about 30 minutes.
Yep.
So
That was never
I
again.
get it. That's funny. So those are the kind of lessons we learn in time. Like, I hate painting. I just hate it with a passion because I'm really bad at it, and my ADD kicks in, and I'm like, you know, people say everybody can paint. I was like, not me. I can frame a house I can roof a house. I can lay masonry blocks. I can do tile. I can't paint. I mean, it seems like the simplest thing in the world, but you hire a painter and he just knocks it out, and it takes me 18 hours to clean up the mess I made.
Just tell them it's abstract art.
Picasso.
So you mentioned something called sub 2,
Yep.
and I want to address that just for a second with the definition. So your associate, who was kind of in trouble with this house, had a loan, and you were able to make a purchase subject to the mortgage in place, which in the business we call sub 2. And it's an important technique for people to understand because it takes so little money out of your pocket to get that deal done and to get the reward of $100,000 split with the partner who had 20 years experience beyond your experience and money that would be needed for the deal. So it makes perfect sense to put that kind of deal together. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but that's a really cool, if y'all have questions, people who are watching or listening, make a comment, ask more questions about that. I'm not going to go into it any deeper now, but just when you throw out the term, we bought it sub 2, you and I and Paul and, a lot of people know exactly what that means, but some people don't. So
That's fair.
I'm not going to give a study on it right now, but it's a great thing to comment on, people, if you're interested.
I'll add one more point, which is that the one cool thing about that deal is I didn't bring any money to that deal. All I brought was my time. So I was the one who managed the project, drove to Greenville, managed the renovation, hired the contractors, and they brought the money. So I was able to get into my first deal without having any experience.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I guess that you don't get into a first deal with having experience, but I was able to partner with somebody and just provide my time rather than expertise or money.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful point and a wonderful example for people listening and watching, is you can do that. You need zero money to get into real estate when you connect with the right people. And Rehab Wallet can be one of those people as a company, but individuals are really great at the beginning and then kind of transition into doing your own thing and using a hard money lender like Rehab Wallet. So that's a cool story. And I love the fact that you point out that the seller got what they needed to.
Yeah.
It's not like we're bandits. We're offering a lot to the seller as well. After you work with Rehab Wallet, and we'll give them a plug because it's a great company, and it's hard money lender, and Harris is on that team. And then you and Paul started doing something pretty cool, which is co-living and renting by the room, and we're going to talk about that later, but first we're going to focus on Paul for a minute. And I want to hear about you, man. Talk to me.
Yeah. I'll say I also have a very unique childhood, let's just say for very, very different reasons. Both of my parents are first-generation immigrants from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
They both grew up in basically farming families, very poor, 9 children on one side, 10 children on the other side, because
Oh, wow.
it was a time when you didn't know when all your children were going to make it. Some of them didn't.
Really? Okay.
So my mom and my dad, they both got married. They came to the United States. First ones in each of their families, and also first ones in each of their families to graduate from college. So that was kind of cool. They went to school in New York City. I forget exactly which one, but they both graduated with accounting degrees. And my dad became an accountant. My mom, she actually became a real estate agent. So
Okay.
since they were both here in the United States, fresh from the Dominican Republic, freshly graduated, trying to start a career, and that's when my first brother came along. And my brother George, he is quite a bit older than me. He is 16 years older, and they were just trying to start their careers. He came along, and then they were like, wait, we barely have any money. We don't know how to speak English barely. We should pause on a family. So that's why my brother George is 16 years older than I am.
Yeah, so
brother
they
Mark.
slowed their roll a little bit after that.
Yeah, they actually
We don't
they
want to end
actually
up with
had thought.
9 or 10 kids in New York is a little different from on a farm.
Yeah,
My grandparents, not my parents, but my grandparents were both farm families, and 9 children on one side and 11 on the other, because not everybody's going to make it.
yeah,
Which my family was pretty fortunate. There were a couple, but it was more hands. It's more mouths to feed, but it's also more hands to work.
that's also true.
But you don't want to do that if you're college educated and living in New York
Yeah.
necessarily. I mean, 9 or 10 kids would be a little rough. Yeah,
Understood.
so they came to the United States. Were they married before? Did they? So they
Yeah,
were married in the Dominican Republic, moved to the United States together, and took this
yeah,
journey together. Okay.
yeah. And then
Okay.
they, like you mentioned, they actually planned. They had the foresight to think, hey, this is a little bit rocky right now. Let's focus on our careers. Let's focus on our son, and then we'll have children later. So that's my middle
Okay.
brother and I came much later, 14 and 16 years later.
Do you have
So
any other siblings?
that was it.
Just the two? Okay. They were
Just
done.
yeah. So they wanted 2 more kids. They had 2 more kids. So
Oh, okay.
so one of the big things that happened shortly after that is this is why I mentioned that I had a very unique childhood, similar in different ways. My mom actually she came down with breast cancer, and unfortunately she
Oh,
passed when I was very young.
I'm sorry.
So that's probably also why they might have had more children, but it was just us. But she left
Yeah.
a good legacy, though. She worked for Century 21 back in the 80s, and she was like number one in her agency. She was awesome. She won it was the annual contest. She won a big screen TV back when they were like 150 pounds. So she was pretty
Yeah.
awesome. So
Very
I probably
cool.
had that real estate blood in there somewhere.
Did she have the gold jacket?
She did actually. Yeah,
I,
she
I
did.
remember the gold jacket.
Yeah, so she was
So
pretty
there's a
awesome.
real estate legacy there.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think
so
so.
it was in your squirrel cage back here,
Yeah, yeah.
churning, right? I'm
So
familiar with that.
I think I got that intellect from them.
Yes.
And fast forwarding a little bit, that led me to we moved to California, and I went to school at University of California, Santa Barbara
Oh,
for
okay.
computer engineering. So a mix of computer science and electrical engineering. So that's the engineering brain, I guess, got mixed in there with the accounting. Fun side tangent. My dad, as an accountant, he was like, son, don't get into this. Do something else. Don't do accounting. I'm sure you'll be great at it, but there's
Right.
better things to do. So that's why I chose computer science, electrical engineering. So that was a good
That's
one.
funny because my father was dying for me to be an accountant. And I was like, I'm going to jump off the bridge if I have to be an accountant. I went to business school and I took accounting 1, accounting 2, and managerial accounting. And I'm like, I'm out. I'm going to be a marketing major because I prefer
Yeah,
talking to people than looking at my desk.
exactly.
So
I think,
he was like, you have to understand accounting. I said, I think I've got it, but I don't want to do it every day.
yeah, I think his thing was that one, you can make decent money, but the ceiling is only so high. If you're
Right.
doing marketing or real estate or anything else, like, obviously the ceiling is way higher. But also, as he found out, sometimes depending on your role, you can do your job very well, but that means people hate you
Yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
finding where the money inefficiencies are and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
like, that kind of sucks.
Right. It feels critical. People feel criticized by it.
Exactly.
And you're solving problems. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I loved when I lived in the corporate world. I loved the IT guy, and he would always say, "Did you turn it off and back on again?" It's like, no. So, well, call me back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
We know
So
that statement all too well. Did you
Yeah,
turn
and
it
now
off?
Ryan tells me that all the time now. Did you
it
turn it off
works.
and
It
back on
works.
again? And let's start there and call me back in 5 minutes. I got things to do.
Yep.
Yeah. I tell my dad that sometimes too. Still asking me for
I
IT
love
stuff.
it.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in California, went to school for computer engineering and UCSB, and it was about 2016. That's when I
Yep.
moved to Charleston, cross country for
What brought you to Charleston?
A
It's a long
job
trip.
here, a job at a local tech company called Blackbaud.
Oh, yeah. Well, I knew that.
Yeah. No, that's the job that I got here. I'm not at Blackbaud anymore. I'm at a different, a government contractor now. Still doing software engineering and doing pretty well.
Yeah, there's a lot of good companies in Charleston for that.
Yeah.
Blackbaud's
Oh,
a good
yeah.
company.
Yeah. Of course. So it was about, I guess, 2.5 years ago now. That was a small real estate mastermind. Thank you, Russ. Where we met for the first time.
Russ is running this mastermind group, and I'm there, and Paul walks in the door. I'm like, hey, he's cute. You brought us together, Russ.
Yeah.
Well, you're
So
welcome. It was unintentional, but it's a happy accident.
yeah. So I will say that real estate masterminds can be life changing in many many ways.
This wasn't the one on the boat. It was before that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one at the tides.
Yeah. Yeah, we did one on a yacht, which was pretty fun. Yeah. So, yeah, the masterminds, I mean, I look forward to the masterminds, and not for building relationships like yours, but for
Yeah.
building other types of relationships. But I'm glad it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. Sometimes we'll get into this later, but our housemates, the people that we live with, they'll be younger guys typically, and they're like, I
Yeah.
can't find a good girl. I don't know where to look. And we're like, well, where are you going to look? And where are you going out to find these women? And they'll say, I'm at the bar, or, someplace that they shouldn't be looking for women. And we're like,
It's
go
the
to a
worst
real estate
possible
mastermind.
place.
Yeah.
Go somewhere that is like where you'll find a woman or a man, in my case, who's actually like striving to do something, not
Right.
going to the bar and drinking, which is fun too, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you'll find
Yeah,
better
getting-
people in groups where people are striving to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. And you connected over finding each other personally attractive, but also the mental part of it. Like, yeah, we're kind of on the same page
Yeah.
with goals and lifestyle and, what we want to do with ourselves. And you both have great jobs. And you have, I want to kind of dip into the real estate, but not get too deep. But I want people to hear about this because I think it's pretty exciting what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're both fairly young and no children, so that allows for a lot of flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have enough kids for all of us, so just you've done well by
Yeah.
choosing another way. I love my kids, all of them.
So
But with the flexibility you have with no children, you're able to do something called co-living.
Yeah.
It's also used to be called house hacking. House hacking's slightly different.
yeah.
So you want to talk about that, house hacking versus co-living? Do you have a way to describe the
Yeah.
difference?
It was, I'll say a little bit of backstory. I don't think it was the first one. Maybe it was the second or third mastermind that you had. That was when we were both there with a young gentleman named Scott, Mr. Scott Stamps. And he was
Yes.
giving a presentation about how I think he had 6, 7, 8 houses where he rented everything by the room. And he gave a
Yes.
little presentation. And over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6 months, we were just talking, back and forth, Harris, me, and Scott. And he's great. Scott is a great guy. He's very willing to share, very nice guy, very open and honest. And after a while, Harris was like, "Hey, you don't have a house. You're just renting an apartment on Daniel Island. You should do that." And I was like,
Yeah.
"No way, that sounds too risky." But Harris convinced me, and that I was like, "You know what? I think you're right. I think we should do that." So, bought a house, and that's actually where we are right now. Bought a house. We did something called a conventional renovation loan. I had no idea that this was a thing. Huge thanks to my agent, Mr. Jake Adamzak. He told
Yep.
us about this, and I was like, "Hey, you should check this out. This is a fantastic way to buy a house. They give you money for the mortgage to buy the house, but also up to $50,000 or $75,000 to renovate the house.
Right.
Kind of cool. You could take that money, add bedrooms, add bathrooms, do whatever else you want," which we did, like expanding the driveway, a new fence, changing the water tank for a tankless water heater, a bunch of stuff. So bought the house, did that, and then Harris and I moved in, and we started house hacking. To answer your question, the way we think of house hacking is when you live in part of a house and rent out another part, whether it's units or a detached garage, or like in our case, rooms. And then co-living is the same. Co-living is the same thing, but you just don't live there. So you just do something
Yeah.
else.
I would probably define co-living as room rentals. You're renting by the room. So people are living in more of a community, which is kind of where the word co-living comes from. It's like community style living, right?
Right.
So you can house hack and do co-living. Paul's fixing something. You can do house hacking
He's
and
all hyper
co-living.
and fidgeting. I got it.
Yeah.
You can basically do house hacking and co-living, which means you live in a room and other people live in the other rooms in your house.
Right.
And then you can do just pure house hacking with that's not co-living, where you might live in a unit and then somebody else lives in your garage or another
Right.
unit.
So you're not
Um,
really sharing space. They're
Correct.
on your property in the where you live, but in a separate
Yeah.
Yeah.
unit.
It's more shared, you're right. Shared living. I like that
Yeah.
definition. Shared living, community living.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for anyone watching or listening to this, if you just want to get into real estate, I mean, one of the best methods is to buy a duplex or a quadruplex. And let's say you can find a quadruplex, probably not in our direct market, but a lot of
Yeah.
places, and live in one unit, get a loan for the whole thing. And as Paul said, was that a 503K?
It was at the time we did a conventional renovation loan called a Fannie Mae Home Style.
Okay.
We are doing one right now that's an FHA 203K. It's a Federal Housing Administration 3K. Same thing.
Two,
Yeah,
right.
203K. Same thing. Just it's a government loan available to literally everybody, every single
So-
American.
Yeah, so either way, the principle's the same. You get a conventional mortgage, then you get a renovation mortgage on top of that. Live in one unit and rent the other three out is classic house hacking.
Yeah.
Or buy a duplex and live on one side and rent the other out. This is a little different,
Yeah.
what you're
And they-
doing, because it's by the room. And what I consider, and I haven't really seen none of your properties, but I've seen Scott's, and they are very conventional suburban houses with a big driveway, because you have to park a lot of cars.
Yeah.
And so what does yours look like? What do yours look like?
Yeah. Both of our houses actually, it's kind of similar.
Yeah.
This house that we're in right now, it started off as a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, and it had just recently been renovated, just recently been flipped. I bought it directly from the flipper, which was great. And then we came in, added bedrooms, added bathrooms, changed it out, some plumbing, electrical stuff, fence, driveway, and a few other things. And now it's a 5-1, fairly small house. I think it's about 1,700 square feet. And my one stipulation for doing this, which I think was a great idea, is I wanted to buy a house within 5 minutes of Harris's house. And we did. And
Yeah.
that was a fantastic idea, because shortly after we started living here and house hacking, then we started renovating Harris's house. And just going back and forth between both houses, like every night, whether it's my house renovating or Harris's house renovating, we could see, like, what did they do today? And
Where do
could
we
go-
live?
Without having to, like, fight traffic or, travel hours on end. It's right there. It's very convenient.
Right.
That was
right.
brilliant idea, especially for your first one. You can do remote investing later, but I think for the first one, cutting down your commute is very critical. I think that's awesome. But I think two things I'll say is, house hacking and is probably very common in most parts of the country doing multifamily. I think in Charleston there is not much. A lot of houses are older, which mean like brick ranches. There's not too much multifamily, and so that's why it's a little bit more common here to buy a house and then rent by the room, which is what Scott's doing. So that's kind of why we had to do it there. If you're in another part of the country, then great, buy a multifamily. And the nice thing is about FHA 203K, Fannie Mae Home Style, all of these loans, you can go up to duplex, triplex, quadplex. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're all considered
Right.
residential. But
Right.
literally anybody can do this. Get that loan, renovate a house, rent out some stuff, and now you're living with part of your housing expenses covered, maybe for free, maybe making a profit, depending on how you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, anybody can do it because, as you said, anything under 5 units, so 4 or fewer, is residential. And you can get a regular old loan and a renovation loan. So it makes it pretty easy, as you said. Thank you
Yeah.
for saying anybody can do it because it's true.
Yeah. I'll say I wish I had done this a lot. I wish when I graduated school, I wish I had
Right.
bought a house and started renting rooms immediately. Or
Right.
even like I'm just thinking now for anybody that maybe can't qualify for a loan or something like that, just
Yeah.
rent an apartment and then rent out some rooms. You're probably doing the same thing. You're cutting your expenses down. Depending if it's a 3 or 4 bedroom apartment, maybe you're still like living almost for free. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It's do you know why Airbnb is called Air?
wasn't it originally air mattresses?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it was the ultimate house hacking or co-living because literally you throw an air mattress on the floor and say that'll be $50 and you can stay here tonight. And that's where Airbnb came from. Of course, it's evolved very differently now, but it's not a new concept. I mean, I think about medieval taverns and get a room and it's furnished. What about furnishing and how do you handle common areas and private areas? And you're saying you have a 5 bedroom, 1 bathroom.
Three. So I
Oh,
maybe
three,
I
three
don't think I
one.
finished. It was a 3-1. Now
Okay.
it's a 5-3. And then after we started living
Oh,
here,
okay.
we started then renovating Harris's house, and then we did something very similar. It was a 3-1, and now it's a 5-3. So
Okay.
all in, both are 5-3s now.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
That
when it
makes-
comes to furnishing and common spaces, most people who are in the co-living model, they don't like common spaces because they feel like it breeds conflict because people pass each other and then see each other in the living room and then it just breeds conflict. We don't feel that way. We actually like the community style living, so we like having common spaces. We like sitting in the kitchen or at the dining table and talking to our people while they're cooking dinner or something like that, right?
Sure.
So we enjoy that. We have learned that in our market specifically, this isn't every market, our market specifically attracts people who want furnishings because they're transients. So they're coming here, they don't live locally. Maybe they're moving from out of state because they found a job, or maybe they got a contract to work at one of the hospitals here. So we don't have a lot of people moving into our homes that have their own furniture. So we started out not having the rooms furnished, and then we ended up getting so many requests for furnished rooms, we just ended up furnishing them. And we've done that ever since.
That was probably our one of our rock bottom moments, I would say, is we renovated the house and then we moved in and we were trying to look for people to rent rooms. We originally had the price set for quite high and it was not furnished. We thought because it had a private bathroom and a private entrance, somebody might be willing to pay, $1,200, $1,300, something like that. That was not realistic, and we tried for quite a while and failed miserably. And that was one day I remember we were at Harris's house, and I remember saying to her, I was like, "Do you remember when we used to live here and we were happy?"
We were happy. We didn't have all the stress.
Now,
If that was our rock bottom moment, I think we're doing pretty good.
I said one of. So we had, now we have 2 mortgages that we have to carry by ourselves, and
Yeah.
we did this to be able to share the mortgage with other people, and we can't get anybody. So
Right.
now what are we going to do? So we pivoted. One of the things is that I had ads available, and people kept reaching out and saying, "Hey, is this room furnished?" No. "Hey, is this room furnished?" No. "Hey, is this room furnished?" No. And then we're like, all right, maybe we should do this. So we decided to furnish and drop the price quite a bit. And then we started getting people, and then after a few weeks, then we did finally rent the room. So that was a good big load off. But I would say that was a rock bottom because I was like, we didn't know.
So did you end up furnishing it and getting the higher rent,
No,
or
we
dropping the
furnished,
rent?
we furnished and dropped the rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
that, that sounds like reality.
So big lesson learned. If anybody's going to get into this,
Yes.
do your underwriting and all this kind of stuff and aim for lower than you think you can rent for, just in case.
Right.
Especially
Right.
at the beginning. Now we
That's
know.
a smart move, sure.
Yeah. Now we know at the beginning that when you're starting to rent and you have an empty house, the biggest thing that kills you is vacancy. So
Yes.
if you're going to rent a room for 50% of what you think you can get, it's better than an empty room. Try renting it for 50% the first month and then go on from there.
Yeah, that's a gold nugget. Ryan tagged up. That's
Yeah.
super important. One of the things that I get coaching students who come in are gung ho about Airbnb and VRBO, and we're going to short term rent, and it'll cash flow 3750 a month. And I said, but okay, that's great, and it probably will. But what if they change the municipal regulations or
Yeah.
something happens? Let's make sure. Let's see what the long term rent would be. Well, it's 1,500. So don't buy it based on
Yeah.
the best scenario. Buy it based on the worst scenario, and then you're always going to be okay. And you can do a lot better than okay. But I've seen a lot of people crash and burn, not really, immediate friends and coaching students and that sort of thing, but people in some of the national groups that I'm in have just hyperextended themselves thinking that just what you experienced,
Yeah.
you're going to get so much per room, and it ends up being a little over half that. So be prepared for disappointment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still, you're building something wonderful. So it's, if that's your rock bottom, you're doing okay so far.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough leap of faith to jump into becoming essentially a landlord and never having any tenants and like, hey, I built this thing. They're supposed to come, right?
Right. No,
Build it and they will come, and then they don't.
That's not how capitalism works. No.
Yeah.
So I've heard that y'all do game nights and really interact with your co-living family. I don't want to call them tenants or occupants, but
We call them housemates.
Yeah.
your housemates.
Housemates,
That's
yeah.
perfect. So
Yeah.
tell me about that.
Yeah. So a little bit of backstory there. I used to run a meetup group for board games.
Yes.
Friday nights. Started that back in COVID, actually. Kind of crazy.
Yes.
And that, started in my apartment with 3 or 4 people. And over the many years, I think now there's over 500 people in that group. And that group grew like wildfire. So that was fantastic. We met every single Friday night. And a lot of good friends, good memories made. And I think that's partially what gave us the passion to want to get into this. Kind of seeing what a virtual community comes, how you can grow a virtual community, and we're like, could we make that physical?
Right.
We actually started hosting another group called Deep Talk. So we would get together for a potluck with friends on a Sunday at lunchtime, and everybody would bring some food. We'd sit around a table, and then we would answer questions that were not your surface level questions. So that really helped us learn how to build community and get vulnerable with people, even strangers,
wow.
right? So those are 2 groups that kind of led us onto this path.
So with the deep talk, we have little boxes of cards that ask questions that I don't want to answer.
Exactly those.
I know it's good, so we do that. I do that with friends and family a little bit. Did you have prompts like that? Or?
We had a secret box of questions, and we would have
Okay.
people submit questions.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes we would have a deck of cards that people would pull from, but for the most part, it was submitted questions that people would then draw anonymously from the box.
Interesting. So board game nights, deep talk
Yeah.
afternoons. Any crazy housemate stories that we need to hear? Come on.
Well, I'll say, talking about community a little bit, we didn't know how this was going to go. And so we rented the first room here in this house, and we pick up this guy from the airport, or his name's Aziz. Young guy, he's about 20. He just graduated from college with computer science. Moved all the way across the country. We pick him up from the airport. He was like, "No, don't pick me up, don't pick me up." We're like, "We insist, we would love to." So we did, and he comes home. We're like, "All right, go unpack." And then we didn't see him for like 2 or 3 days. We're like, "Oh,
Huh.
cool." So we didn't know, are people going to be friendly? Are they going to want to interact? Are they want to spend time with us? Or are they going to keep themselves? And we're like, well,
Right.
I guess that answers that question. That's fine. But it was like the 3rd or 4th day, he comes out. We're just eating dinner, cooking, and he's like, "Hey, I see you have a chess box here. You want to play?" I'm like, "Sure, I guess let's play some chess."
Yeah.
And we start playing, And all of a sudden I realized this guy is like a chess grandmaster. He starts taking a piece like almost every turn. He's doing some crazy moves. He's like, impasse. I'm like, what is that? He's like, it's a... I was like, what? He destroys me. I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So right away we become good friends. And I think the next night he's cooking some chicken. And he's like, hey, Harris, Paul, you guys want some chicken? And then go ahead.
So we started sharing meals with this guy, and then over time we learned a lot about him. He's Muslim, so we learned a lot about his different culture and religion. We asked him about his family, so we became really good friends with this guy. And eventually he decided that he wanted to do what we were doing. So he asked us for help to buy his own house and start house hacking. So this isn't like a crazy wild tenant story, but it was one of the best things that...
No, it's an inspirational story. I'll take that.
Yeah, because he bought his own house. Paul helped him source tenants, so now he's doing exactly what we were doing. And he lives 3 minutes up the road, so we go eat Chipotle every like 2
And he
weeks.
came from the other side of the country, has a different culture, a different religion from Southern Baptist where we live,
Yeah.
and other things, but mostly that.
Yeah.
So to be a Muslim here and come from another part of the country and take that leap to do what you're doing is especially impressive.
I'll say he taught me perhaps one of the biggest lessons that I've learned during this whole process, and that is that even when he came from Seattle, that's where he was before,
Okay.
and he was specifically looking for places around where he works. He works close to the airport, so he was like, hey, I see your house is close to the airport and I'd love to stay. The rent, as I was mentioning before, it was a little bit high. He's like, that's a little bit high for me right now, but I need a place. I have an Airbnb that I rented for a few weeks, and your place is less than that, so I canceled my Airbnb. I want to stay at your place. But at the end of September, I'm just going to stay for 1 month, then I'm going to find something else. So he came, he stayed with us for a few weeks, and then he was like, okay, I got an apartment with a friend, it's a little bit less money, and I told you I was going to move out, so then I am. And we're like, okay, that's too bad. We started to become pretty good friends with him so far. But he told me that he was going to move out, so that was fine. Throughout those few weeks, he did mention, he was like, I'm a fresh college graduate. I'm not making too much. I would love to stay with you guys. I love you guys, Harris and Paul, but it's a little bit stretching my budget.
Right.
You could kind of tell he was stressed out a little bit about it. Like, how am I going to pay for all these bills? He shipped his car. He had to redo his registration and all this kind of stuff, and he was stressed out. So anyway, he was going to move in with his friend at this apartment, and a few days go by, and his friend was the one that went into the apartment to sign the application, and then a few days later, he said, I don't know what happened, but I went to actually sign the lease, and they just raised the rent by like $400.
Oh, wow.
What the heck? And so I was like, went to Harris, and I was like, you know what? I really like Aziz. He's a cool guy, and I think I want to keep him here. And we talked about it. And so one day I said, hey, to Aziz, I know that you were planning to move in with your friend to get cheaper rent, and now they raised it. So I really like you, and if you wouldn't mind, I was texting him with him during the work day, and I said, if you wouldn't mind, I will lower the rent for you if you decide to stay. And he was like, okay, cool. And when he came home that day, he came home and he was like, hey, Paul, and I was in the office. He came, he found me, and he gave me the biggest hug that I've ever had in my life.
It was super awkward as a woman, just like standing there watching your boyfriend like hug this man for a really long time.
He was I will probably never forget that moment. Like, he was very genuinely grateful. The heavens had opened up. Like, I've been worrying about money for weeks, and now I don't have to worry about that. They're going to lower the rent. And I learned this lesson. I forget where I heard it, but it's like, in real estate, when you're a landlord, whatever, like, you can make good money, but you don't have to make a killing. And
Right.
I've heard that before, and when it connected me with this moment, now I've also thought too, is like, even if you're getting the amount of money you think you can get the maximum, the people that are renting from you, they might be stressed out. especially in co-living, renting rooms, they might not be good to live with. And if
Right.
you charge less, well, now they'll be happier, they'll be less stressed, they'll be more grateful.
And
And
they'll
it's
make
just,
you chicken.
yeah, exactly. And it's a win-win all around.
No, I love that.
Valuable lesson to anybody who's thinking about renting anything. Keep in mind that the mental well-being of people you're renting to is
Yes.
worth something, and they'll probably be better tenants too if you charge less.
He does
Yeah.
make good chicken too.
He does make really good chicken. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the first rule of hugs is never be the first to let go.
Yeah. I tried. He kept going. He was a good guy.
I'm telling you, Harris knows I give her a hug, and she's always the first to let go. So I make sure I'm never the first to let go.
That's funny.
Because you don't know how much the other person needs that hug.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you hang in there until they say, okay, bud, that's enough. We'll break
Yeah.
this up.
Yeah.
I get the point. We're
Right.
cool.
So I love the point you made. I haven't done co-living, owning a place and having housemates, but I have some university tenants in Columbia, and we charge top dollar. And I got a notice from the property manager, who's a good friend of mine. You know, the microwave is broken. It's like, the microwave's a year old. It's an over the range. It's not a cheap microwave. I said, it's not broken. They broke it. And I said, just replace it. I mean, I'm not going to go to war with anybody over something like that. You know, if they do legitimate damage to the property, of course, but I'm not going to go to war over something that's just irritating. Like the ice maker doesn't work. Well, did you push the on button? Okay, just push that button that says on, and it'll make ice. So little things like that. You know my temper, Harris. Can't let those things get to me.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say that we have to label a lot of things in the house.
Yes.
And there's
I
a
love
whole
that.
different reason for some of the labels. Some of the labels are just, this is your cabinet and this is your refrigerator. We've learned, your refrigerator shelf, rather. But we have learned that people just don't know simple household things. For
Right.
example, we now have to label the dishwasher detergent because people will put dish soap in the dishwasher and then it will get soap and
That is no
foam
bueno.
and water like all over the place.
People don't know that.
People don't know that.
Yeah, people don't know.
Yeah, another funny little story. We now have a similar label on the drying machine that says, before you put clothes in the dryer, check your clothes for chapstick.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And
So
chewing gum.
Yeah.
I have one of my favorite shirts. I left one stick of gum in the pocket, and I now have this big, like, nasty
Yeah.
through the wash with one stick of gum. It didn't hurt the wash machine, but oh god, chapstick would be a disaster.
I was the victim of that one. I was
no.
washing my clothes and it just happened to be all white clothes. And I typically check the dryer and the washer to make sure nothing's in it, but I must have missed it. I don't know if it was tucked away behind one of the blades. And I put my clothes in the dryer, pulled it out, and there was red cherry chapstick all over my clothes.
Oh my god.
I was like, all right,
Yeah.
great.
So now we have a little note that says, please check for chapstick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well that's life, right? It's life with the co-living. So, Paul, I'm interested in, and you've alluded to it, but I haven't really heard a lot about, you had a pretty good weight loss journey at some
Yeah,
time in your life.
I did actually. I'm not entirely sure what happened because when my middle brother and I were very young, we couldn't keep anything down. Just whatever we ate just came back up. We had a pretty bad eating disorder. To this day, we were sent to my grandma's house for summer one year when I was very young. I don't remember what happened. My middle brother, Mark, he doesn't remember what happened. My dad doesn't remember. And my grandma is passed now. But somehow that summer she cured us. And now we were able to actually eat and keep food down. So then what's going to happen? We start eating and eating and eating. And my dad was so overjoyed he let us eat whatever we want, whether it's, candy,
Sure, right.
sugary cereal, all this kind of chips, all this stuff. And we started gaining weight. And unfortunately, we were overweight. Literally our entire childhood. Thank goodness for our oldest brother, George. We moved we moved from New York to California in about 8th grade.
Right.
He was very much into fitness, the California lifestyle, eating right, working out, all this kind of stuff. So he tried to teach us about how to eat right. Sadly, of course, it was a lot of low fat in the 90s, which as we now know is kind of garbage, but that's a whole nother point. But we tried low fat, low calorie, vegetarian, vegan, paleo, all the just Mediterranean, just, working out a lot, exercise, and nothing really worked for me until probably my mid to late 20s is when I discovered the keto diet.
Yes.
Low carb, low sugar, and that's what finally worked for me. So now I avoid pretty much all carbs except for green vegetables and a lot of protein and stuff like that. And I've been doing low carb since probably over 10 years at this point. And that's what finally, I don't know what happened, but like I started doing that, and I over the period of like 6 months, I weighed myself every day, and I was like, is my scale broken? Because my weight was just like melting off like over a period of months, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And so now I will never stop doing keto, even though people say it's like unsustainable, quote unquote unsustainable, but because like, I lost 60 pounds and I can't unsee that, and I have no reason to go off of it. It makes me feel good. I look better than I've ever looked in my life, and so I will tell everybody about keto, but obviously everybody's body is different. But I'll say if you haven't tried it, give it a try. I think the one thing that almost every single diet on the face of the planet is common is like everyone is against sugar, like lower your sugar intake. Pretty obvious. So keto is just the more extreme one. It's not just sugar, but like other carbs, So
I see the mental clarity, and you're obviously very physically fit, but
appreciate that,
the mental clarity is part of it. It's not like that diet's destroying your brain. I mean, I think you're doing well. My father was type 2 diabetic, and he's completely off medication now.
Nice.
With the keto, and he and my mother do it pretty religiously. I mean, there's a cheat now and then, but she tried making keto cookies, and they were like eating sand. So I was like, let's just eat vegetables.
Yeah, I think that works.
I make some great keto cookies, so I can send you the recipe.
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever she was using for flour was like, this is terrible.
The first time I made keto cookies, they looked like wet pancakes, and eventually I got the recipe down. So I have some good recipes.
A lot of trial and error.
That recipe.
She did not let me try the first few batches. She was like, no, I can't even.
Right.
I was like, I'll probably eat it anyway, but she didn't.
You don't want that memory stuck in your head.
Yeah.
I love it. So you guys are very involved in masterminds. I've noticed on social media. Tell us about some of the most recent ones that you've attended.
Yeah. Well, so we have attended yours, of course. You
want to give them a plug?
Yeah, Clear Vision.
Yes.
Clear Vision.
Well, that's where you met. Was it one of our Clear Vision masterminds?
Yeah, definitely kind of funny. That was a leap for me. I'm very, very frugal, so even that kind of thing, I was like, do I really want to do this? But
I remember.
Yeah.
Let's come back to a story that is the difference between me and him. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Keep going.
All right. Let me forget. I need to hear this.
Yeah. So right now, actually, the main one we're in, it's a co-living mastermind we joined last December. I'll give a plug for Mr. Sam Wiegert, co-living mastermind. We joined that, and it's been pretty good. It is kind of, this was also a leap for me. Harris can attest. I was probably thinking about it for months, and Harris was like, let's just do it. Just freaking do it. And I think there's a lot of power in, spending money to be around people that are trying to achieve a difficult thing.
Right.
Everybody's struggling through it. Some people are a little bit farther than you, so they can help you. Maybe you're a little bit farther than somebody else, so you can help them.
Right.
We'll probably join other masterminds in the future for sure. But this has been a very good experience. And actually, we had no idea this was going to happen. But because of what we house hacking, co-living, having a few houses now, we've actually started coaching now too. So pretty cool. We are coaches within the group to help other people. So it's been an interesting journey. We didn't plan for that, but
They kind of asked us because we were very active in the group. So as long as you join a group and you're very active, you'll get the value out of it. So we joined the group, we started posting a lot, started asking a lot of questions, having calls with people, and eventually they realized we scaled to the point that we are now in 1 year, less than 1 year really. So they recognized that and they said, hey, would you guys be interested in helping some of the new people who are joining the group so that they're not left behind? Like no one left behind is what our call is dubbed.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, the coaching gets criticized a lot, but to me it's a natural evolution of what we do. Is once you get good at something, then helping other people is just natural. And getting paid for it is not a crime. I mean, I paid a fortune for coaching, and I'm glad I did. So
it is an interesting feeling now, because this is the first time in my life that I've ever really made any money outside of my job. Right. And it's interesting because other people are like, especially in our mastermind and outside, they're like, how did you do that? And it's like, wait, this is valuable information. So it's interesting. So we're getting ready to join another mastermind. We're thinking of a few other things. The next one might be something like commercial real estate. That's something that's also on my mind, especially since you guys are talking about it at the REI groups and stuff like that. It's like, maybe we should do that.
Yeah. So tell us about that difference between the two.
Oh, yeah.
So we were at my house. Before we launched the property, we decided that we were going to install a UFI deadbolt on the front door. And so we had to go and take the old deadbolt off. So Paul did that. I went over, he went over, and he sat at the door and started taking the old deadbolt off. And later on, I come back over there, and he still hasn't installed it yet. And I'm like, what's going on, Paul? He said, it won't fit. I'm like, what do you mean it won't fit? It's a deadbolt. It's their standard sizes. And he said, well, this old door, the part that slides into the side of the door, the actual deadbolt part, it wouldn't slide in.
It just won't fit.
It just won't fit. And I said, he said, I guess I'll just have to send it back.
Yeah, so I started boxing it up. Like, I'm going to send it back. It doesn't fit, whatever.
I was like, no, we're not doing this. So I went to grab, I didn't have a rubber mallet with me, so I grabbed a puffy jacket because it was the middle of winter, and I grabbed my hammer, and I just started like hammering the deadbolt into the door. And he was like, okay, I guess that's how Harris gets things done.
Yep.
So
you just need a bigger hammer.
Yeah. So that's the perfect description of the difference between Harris and I. I'm very measured. I want to be very careful about everything, and if it doesn't fit, that's okay. And Harris is just like, I'm gonna force this square peg into the round hole.
Paul said this will never work, and Harris said it will if you hit it with a hammer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably the best partnership you can probably ask for. So.
I grew up in construction, and there was always a job site term, the BFH. The big fucking hammer. Give me the big fucking hammer. We'll hit it with the BFH. Yeah. See what happens.
I don't feel so bad for saying ass earlier.
Yeah.
Language is fine. Apparently hand gestures are a problem, but language is fine. YouTube doesn't mind language.
Great.
Yeah.
Within reason.
So here's something I've also noticed, especially in our co-living group. Only something I've noticed in myself that I've now noticing in other people. Is I'm very much a person that's analysis paralysis. I used to think I was an aim, fire person. Now I realize I'm much more of an aim. And that's it.
Never fire.
Now I'm seeing that pattern in other people in our co-living group. And thank God for Harris, because I'm realizing there are some personalities like me that are probably just never going to do anything, and you need to partner with somebody who's going to push you over the edge.
Or
you could beat yourself over the head and say, I'm going to do this, but it's just easier. Just find somebody else, just partner with them. It's just a million times easier, especially real estate. You need somebody else, right?
Yeah, it's a good team. It's interesting, you being an engineer, my father's an engineer. He's also a champion marksman from the Army in the 60s to I guess he's 81, so his eyesight's not quite there anymore, but long range bench rest rifle shooting. And so what you do there is you ready, fire, and then aim. Because you don't know what you're doing wrong, you can't correct. If you don't fire the shot, how would you ever know if your sights are right? So I said that to him jokingly, like ready, fire, aim. He was like, no, it's ready, aim, fire. And then I said, no, think about what you do. You aim, you ready, aim, and fire, but you really don't know what's going to happen until you fire.
Yeah.
You can aim all day, but you take that shot and you have another round and you say, I was low, I was high, I was left, I was right, and you zero in. My brother and my father and my sister are fantastic shots, and I'm not. I have a personality flaw where I can't pay attention that closely. But that to me is a great analogy, is you got to fire a shot. And it's like, well, that was way off, but now we can dial it in. How do you dial it in if you don't take a shot?
Yeah, that's kind of brilliant. I mean, that's kind of what we did. We built this house.
Well, that's what made me think of it. Is it's very much what you did.
Yeah.
Is, well, that wasn't, and it's what we all do. It's like, well, that didn't work out the way I planned, but it was only off by, and it was off in this direction.
Yeah.
But if you never pull the trigger, it's like the thing we talk about in the masterminds. You can't steer a parked car.
Yeah.
You can turn the wheel all you want, but you're not steering a parked car. And if you're firing a rifle, you're going to have to take a shot and see where it lands.
100%.
And I'm talking about shooting targets, not people, by the way.
We've definitely done that through this process. I don't think it doesn't matter how much you research. I don't think you can really ever understand the process of doing something until you actually get your hands dirty and start doing it.
One a key from the beginning of our conversation here. Sorry, Ryan, I smacked the mic again. Get my hands going. From near the beginning of our conversation, you didn't understand how to flip a house. You didn't understand how to help your friend. You really didn't understand. You couldn't be expected to. But you partnered, and you were very fortunate that your sister and her wife are brilliant and have done it for many, many years. But you were smart enough to say, let's partner on this. You took on the role, and typically as the new partner, you're going to do most of the work. But, I mean, the reward was sweet.
Yeah. And the reward for just doing it was sweet, right? Because then I got to learn.
You get
not just
to
the money.
learn, and in that case, you made a pretty good profit, and you got to learn things. And I also think that built up your go for it muscle. You know what I mean? Like, now you're not afraid to take the shot, because that one worked out pretty damn well. So don't be afraid to take that next shot. And then, speaking personally, I'm having to make a lot of corrections right now because things are different.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing the same thing. You have to really, but you don't know until you take the shot.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit different from Paul in this regard, simply because I went through a really rough time in my life where I didn't have anything. Like, I didn't have nickels to rub together. I lived with an addict for about 5 years. So I didn't have anything during that time period. So at this point in my life, I'm like, if I am completely broke, I'll be in a better situation than I was then. So there is nothing to lose.
Right.
Take the risk and see what happens. And if it doesn't turn out well, that's fine. I'll be okay. I'll brush it off. I'll get up and I'll do it again. I'll try something else.
Man, I'm about to tear up here. I love that.
Yeah. To me, it's crazy because, like, I saw my dad, especially after my mom passed, with struggling his whole life trying to raise kids on his own. So going to zero is like terrifying. That is terrifying. I could not even imagine. Yeah.
Right. But when you've been there, now at least you have an emotionally stable, physically healthy partner.
Yeah.
That you can both right, you can both cry in your coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
But at least you're not alone, or worse than that, being dragged down by something. So that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
What else do we have? Looking at my notes now. Paul, years ago, we connected over tiny houses.
Yes.
Have you explored that any further?
Yeah, kind of fun little side tangent is I ever since like I don't know 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I started watching YouTube videos about tiny houses on wheels, and I fell in love with it. I became obsessed with
Yeah.
tiny houses on wheels. I love how every single one is like different. People customize it to their personalities and their activities, and if you want to move, you take your house with you. It's kind of cool.
Right.
And
And the
I've,
fact that it's engineered
Yeah.
in a way that you can like fit so many things in one little spot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
In like one car size or one truck size, whatever it is. And so I've always had the dream of owning a tiny house on wheels community at some point. And I even had a meetup group where we met once a month to
Yeah.
talk about how can we do this. And I think we met for like 6 months or something like that, or maybe longer. And a lot of people were interested in it. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I very quickly realized like I didn't really know what I was doing. And as the leader of the group, people were like, "Hey, so what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And I was like, "You know what? Maybe I'm gonna take a step back." So I definitely want to revisit that at some point. But, however, keeping that in mind, what is something that is kind of like a tiny house, something very small, a room? So it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, we're kind
Yeah.
of doing that already. By renting rooms, we are creating a little community of tiny rooms.
You are.
Yeah.
It's like a tiny house community, but all under one roof.
Yeah, exactly. So I do eventually want to get there, and I'm building the path in my mind. Like we're learning now, okay, buying real estate, renovating a house, advertising for tenants, dealing with any people issues, house issues, things like that. And then from there, the next step is go bigger, maybe multifamily, maybe commercial, eventually buying land and having this come to fruition. So it's kind of a
Yeah.
ladder stair step. So I'm still on the path, but I think the way we're doing now is a little bit more measured and learning the critical pieces of buying, renovating, becoming a landlord, that kind of stuff. And I definitely do still have a spot in my heart for building one of those. So.
We'll
Yeah.
probably get old and we'll be living on like some little lake area with like tiny homes around it. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Paul will have a 20-foot cinder block fence around the whole place, so
Oh,
it'll be
yeah.
like a compound.
That's right. Yeah. I love fences. One of the best things that I think we did for
I've
this
been to your
house.
house. I see how much you love fences.
Yeah, fence. I love fence. And there's a house in Harris's neighborhood that has a cinder block fence, and it's got like stucco, so it looks nice. You don't just see the cinder block. And I was like, I want that. I want like four
Like a
houses.
stockade. We need
Yeah.
a stockade. Yeah,
Exactly.
we definitely
Yeah. So I want my little like kingdom.
got to
like,
keep the
castle.
zombies out.
Yeah. And keep the people
Well,
in.
I wish you had seen the tiny house I built in 2016, 2017. That was fun. I mean, I had the trailer custom made. I bought a set of plans, even though I had drawn house plans my whole career. But this guy, Andrew, from Portland, or not Portland, but Oregon, had like that. I mean, that I looked at it and went, if I had designed a tiny house, I couldn't have done better than this. So I bought his plans, and I still have the plans in my office, and they're covered in like paint and glue and all kinds of stuff because they were, I had them on the job site, but I held on to them. So it's a very cool concept, and it's not terribly kid friendly. It's either younger single people, or I've found like single women over 50 were hot to trot for them.
Yeah.
And single people, actually the guy who bought it from me was a single man over 50, so I shouldn't be sexist, but at the tiny house festivals, it was like, my God, there's, it's like 80% women with thinking about an empty nest situation. So it is interesting you made the analogy to the rooms,
Yeah.
because it's pretty similar. Because the way that tiny house village thing works is pretty cool. I've been to 3 or 4 of them,
Yeah.
and it's a community, so pretty fun.
Yeah.
We took a trip to the upstate of South Carolina
Yeah.
one weekend, and I just like booked different Airbnbs that were all tiny houses, so
Oh,
he
I love
could
it.
experience
That
it.
was amazing.
It was fun.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. That was probably one of our first dates. I think that was the first trip we took, and she blew me away. I was like, wow, that's cool. I've never stayed in a
Fun.
tiny house on wheels, so
Well, she knew you were interested in it. She's paying
Yeah.
attention.
yeah.
Love it. Well, I think we'll wrap up for today, see if I've missed anything. I think we did really well. So I really appreciate Paul and Harris being on today. This has been great. And for those of you who are still listening and watching, thank you for joining us. Make a comment below about something else we should talk about in the future, or something you disagree with that you heard today, or, encouragement, whatever you'd like to do. We really appreciate the comments. You can find us all over the web on YouTube, Instagram, our private websites, Twitter, and probably elsewhere. Brian will put all the links below because he's the detail guy and I'm the broad strokes. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been the Blue Cup Podcast. Harris, you interrupted me. This has been the Blue Cup Podcast.
Thank you so much, Russ.
Yeah,
We appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thank you for having us.
Enjoyed it.
Went to a bar, refused to shine. I didn't buy no beer and said, I'll tell you what, my name is Russ, and I'm on the mic. So listen to my podcast show.